consent to assess process and have a look and a bit of an introduction to the CMR, so the consent and moderation requirements that's required. Then we're going to have a look at the Mukatangata timeline. So the end is near. We're going to be getting established at the end of the year and moved into an industry skills board. So we'll just look at those key dates. We'll have an introduction about support available, and then a bit of a question and answer session for anyone that just has any burning questions that they've answered now. We will provide our email addresses and just our colleagues' email addresses as well for you to note down, just in case anything comes up later on. Perfect. All right. So consent to assess and consent.
Yep.
I'm doing.
All right. So we've what is consent to assess? So it's essentially NZQA has given your school approval to assess specific unit standards. These are usually individual unit standards. However, in the past, schools have been provided domains, so entire suites of unit standards, which can be quite broad. Now, we're finding that a lot of them have expired now, so we're getting quite a few schools that are coming through and actually applying for consent to assess again to assess unit standards that have replaced old ones. So it's required to have consent to assess before delivering or assessing the unit standards. So we always recommend for schools and providers to have a look the year before to see what you might look into next year, and having a double check to make sure that the unit standards are current, because they usually expire in December, so over the school holiday. So you might not have had a chance to have a look at it before the year end. The consent to assess is based on capability, resources, and alignment to CMRs. So the application will show whether your school has the resources to be able to assess it. So sometimes things like, for instance, vehicles are a lot trickier to assess than some horticulture standards, for instance, because of the amount of equipment that's required. Lisa, do you want to talk about the consent and moderation requirements?
Sure. This is probably a document that you may or may not be aware of, but we do have each unit standard has a consent and moderation requirements that might be specific for that particular industry. In the past, there were multiple consent and moderation requirements depending on the industry that the unit standard sat in, and we've just gone through a process of amalgamating them all into one document. So when the workforce development, so if someone can if you can make sure that you're on mute, that would be great. Thanks. So when the Workforce Development Councils were established in 2021, we inherited the consent and moderation requirements from all of these previous standard setting bodies, and there were lots of them. So over the last few years, what we've been doing is a process of having one CMR document per Workforce Development Council. And what the CMR is, it's what you as a school needs, what you need to meet to be able to deliver these particular unit standards. The consent and moderation requirement document is full of conditions that you need to look at when you are applying for consent to assess, because each specific unit standard might have some things that you need to consider. A good example of that is around the sports turf, just as a example. So sports turf, which is your your fields and golf courses and things like that, to be able to assess any sports turf unit standards, the industry has said that you need to have a minimum of 5 years experience in the sports turf area. So yeah, each industry might have something that's specific to them that you need to meet to be able to be given consent to assess. So our new CMR has just been published, so it's hot off the press as of last week, and it will take effect from the 1st of August. So when we Muka Tangata started, we inherited something like, I think it was 4 or 5 different consent and moderation requirements documents, and we've now amalgamated them all into one, which is 0052, and I'll show you what that looks like. So if you go onto the NZQA framework and you look up a specific unit standard, so in this case, the unit standard is 24827, repair a rail in a rail panel. Under the consent and moderation requirements, it will have a link to the CMR that particular unit standard relates to. So you can actually open it up on the NZQA framework and have a look at it. And at the bottom of each unit standard, it will also show what the consent and moderation requirements document is. So down here, you can see it's 0052 as well. So every unit standard right at the very bottom will have the CMR that is relevant to that particular unit standard. So when we process your consent to assess application, we look at your evidence against what the consent and moderation requirements are as well. Back to you, Jasmine.
Brilliant. Yeah, so I've just provided a link in the chat just to our website, which goes on to a bit more information about the requirements and how to apply. So I'll briefly talk about that now. So basically, I'll show you later in the slide deck. This is so all new applications going forward, this CMR will be applicable to. So if you only want a hort CTA, then only the spots in that CMR. So there's the basis one, and then the horticulture side specificity. I'll open it. Will apply to that application. Okay. So there's different fields within it. So for instance, one of the ones that I've been quite involved in is the equine. So if you were going to apply for an equine unit standard, you would make sure that you've got the core and then the equine subset of them. Okay. Right. So how to apply. So first off, double check your domain. If you haven't got some of the unit standards that you'd like, and I know HATA, Susie and Kerry have done a great job at the regional workshops with groups getting together and recommending unit standards as well. You can go onto the website and go complete the support for consent to assess application form. So that is on that link that I sent through before as well. So we do expect for schools to fill out the form, and you will have all of the information there. It might, instead of the quality and management systems, it might just be in policies and procedures. So it might look a little bit different to providers, but you will generally have all of those requirements there. So like MOUs and health and safety and so on. So complete the application form, and then you send it to us, and then we have a review and we'll issue a support letter. If we've got any questions in that, then we will double check with you, and so we will come back to you for more information, and then you go on to include this in your NZQA application. So with the NZQA application, they also determine your scope of consent. So identifying the unit standards that you wish to assess, and then checking the relevant CMR. So just double checking that document that Lisa referred to before, and making sure that your resources all match up. Going through to NZQA, you must provide the proposed structure of learning, the evidence of staff capability, so your experience and qualifications. I think you just skipped forward, Lisa. staff capability, access to resources, quality management system, all policies and procedures, and letter of support from the SSB. So in this case, it would be us for food and fibre standards. But for instance, if you were going to do a textiles one, it might be. And you send all that through to NZQA. Anything to add on that, Lisa?
No, that's pretty well covered.
Yep. Perfect.
Can I just add something quickly?
Absolutely.
We also, sorry, hello everyone.
That's
sorry,
right.
it just took me a while to get on Wi-Fi at the hotel,
It's
but
easy.
we of support. Yeah, that's.
Sorry,
and
I
we
think
just need to action that just through Kerry.
Susie.
Oh, right. I'll write it. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Perfect. And hotel internets can be a bit dodgy sometimes. Okay. Yep. So Susie will put that through, and so back to that. Okay. Now, how to check your current consent to assess scope. Okay, so this is all done on the NZQA website. So I've stolen Kerry's school just for this example. So we provided some screenshots in here. So the first one is to actually search your school. So I like to do it in the search bar just because the NZQA website can be a bit tricky to navigate. Select your school, and then you scroll down and then you have a look at the consent to assess. Now, this is what we're talking about with the domains, is that quite large domains have been attributed to schools in the past. Generally, the ones that are under food and fibre will be in the agriculture and the horticultural science. Okay, so you click in there and then you can have a little look at what you've got currently. It will come up with with a bracket expiring bracket if it's expiring, or a bracket expired bracket if they're about to go. So those are just some warning signs to have a look at if you're looking to use them in the near future as well. Yeah. Anything to add on that, Lisa?
I don't think so. Yeah.
We can go for an example later on if anyone would like it as well. Consent to assess doesn't expire per se, but the unit standards within them do.
If there's been a version change, though, of a unit standard, you don't need to apply for the new version of the unit standard. It automatically includes any variations of the versions within it. Though if a version or if the unit standard expires and is replaced by a whole new unit standard or skill standard, then you will need to apply for the new one if you don't have it already.
Yep. Yep, you will need to apply this year for 2026. So before you start delivering on those unit standards. And then that leads in quite nicely to our timeline, actually.
Yes.
So many of you know, oh, Sandy, you applied last year. Can you flick us an email if that's all right? You'll have our emails in just a jiffy, and then yeah, be in contact, and we'll have a look at what's going on with that one. There might have been some miscommunication. Okay, so we're not going to exist as the Workforce Development Councils at the end of the year. We still haven't really found out too much about what the structure will look like. It's been confirmed there will be a food, fibre and forestry. Sorry, I need to make sure that we've got the Industry Skills Board naming right. But we're unsure whether we'll be part of that or whether there will be new people or what the structure will look like. Okay. So Friday, the 3rd of October is the last date for pre-assessment moderation and consent to assess applications to be sent in. If you send anything after this date, we will try our best to complete them before the end of the year. But we've already found a massive surge in pre-assessment moderations, which has been great, that people are sending them in. just means that we can guarantee that those ones will get done. Okay. Friday the 19th of December, we're going to finish operations just before the Christmas break. And then Wednesday the 31st of December, the Workforce Development Councils will officially be disestablished. And Thursday the 1st of January, the Industry Skills Board will be stood up. Again, we will try to complete all pre-assessment moderations and consent to assess before we finish work for the year. But we've had to do the date in October just to make sure that those projects can be guaranteed. Anything to add, Lisa?
No, but as Jasmine said, we, strongly encourage you to get your applications in this year because it's highly likely that the new industry skills boards are going to charge for anything. So if you have anything that, and just to clarify the chat, so Susie's mentioning a letter of support. That letter of support from HATA is separate to the letter of support that you need from Mokatangata. So you do need separate letter of support. So we're the standard setting body and we need to provide that letter of support for your NZQA application, whereas Susie's letter of support is around the HATA side of it that you would also send, but it's a separate letter of support.
Yeah. So it's consultation, engagement, and access to resources that letter supports from HATA, which is really, really good, and it is a good basis for the application as well. I am aware that Lisa and I keep on referring to us as Mukatangata with the consent to assess application. It will be whatever the standard setting board is of the unit standard going forward. So even when it changes, there will be a standard setting board for that. It will just be under the new industry skills board, whatever that looks like. Okay. Any questions in regards to those dates? Okay, perfect. Next slide, please. So we've got a big amount of support available, large amount, sorry, I should say, rather than big amount, with online seminars. So we've been finding that we've had actually a really good attendance at them, and we are happy to put on extra, such as this one, if it's needed. Those ones can be registered to at that link that's in the slides, and we can send through the link as well. Hopefully Lisa is going to frantically find that link for us. So you can register on them. We don't charge anything for them, and it is a good time to ask questions as well. Some of them may have already passed, but again, if you would like to have a bit of a Q&A session with any of our staff, then feel free to let us know as well. Okay. Perfect. All right. Thank you, Lisa.
A question there from David. Do we individually need unit standard 4098 or 30421? It's strongly recommended. This has been a discussion for quite some time in regards to whether teachers need to hold unit standard 4098, which is about assessing unit standards, because of the level of your degrees, and we strongly recommend it because it's talking about assessing unit standards and not achievement standards. So there is a difference. So unit standard, and the difference is unit standards were written for vocational education, and that was the whole point of unit standards when they were first created, and they are different to achievement standards. So we do strongly recommend that you do it. There's a lot of providers that offer training for 4098. We don't endorse any, but even looking at Open Poly, which is normally free, or there's lots of free ones and you can do them online, and it would take you probably a day or so. So I'd strongly recommend, as part of your professional development that you do, that you do 4098, because you'll as part of it, you need to show that you can assess unit standards, and you're already doing that as part of your roles, assessing our ones. So it's just a way of being able to formalise it, and it is in our consent to moderation requirements that you hold 4098. It's just industry standard, and all of the standard setting bodies have that in their CMRs as well.
And I'm still vying to do 30421 because that was the replacement for 4098 and 11281 from memory. I used to run them. So one of the differences is that with achievement standards is there's a lot of grey areas, while unit standards says it's quite black and white. Sorry, you've either got it or you haven't. And it is a bit different because it was built for vocational and industry, like Lisa said before. So it's a slight different way of looking at it. I really enjoy doing 4098 in person as well. If you have the time and the capacity, go and do it. Because even those people that you meet in the course, they'll have their own experiences, which are quite good to sort of leverage off. Perfect. Yes, Lisa caught that one. So Jessica Smith asked, is there a limit to the number of standards? So there's not a limit. We recommend that you only apply for the ones that you need and the ones that you foresee using in the next couple of years, just to make sure that you are current and up to date. So you can apply for multiple unit standards, and we recommend it. I recommend looking at it in the next couple of years, so 2026 and 2020, just seeing which ones you're going to use then, and then applying for them all at once rather than reapplying. Yes. So don't reapply once they expire. Perfect. I hope everyone can see the chat. I'm not just talking to myself. Just struck me. Okay. I just wanted as well. So we've got 4 of us on our team. We're based all around the country. We do specialize in different areas, but at the same time, we can help you with all the different needs. I found with schools, it's quite good to be able to find someone in your region. We're a bit lacking in the South Island, but Lisa has lived everywhere. So we rely on her quite a bit. So we've got Rochelle, who's based up in Northland. So one of her specialties is forestry and arboriculture, and it's quite, up in Northland, it's quite needed. Damien is in Tauranga. I'm in Wellington, and Lisa's in Dunedin. We have a lot of regional schools that we can connect with. We were doing in-person site visits, but we're not this year. But I'm sure that if you gave us a bell, then even just having a catch up sometimes is nice, and catch up in some questions. All right. Anything to feed off that, Lisa?
No.
Perfect. All right. We're going to open up the floor to you now. Just if you've got any burning questions. We've already had some in the chat, which is really, really good. But does anyone want to take themselves off mute or write in the chat if you've got any open questions? What are workplace verifiers? You want to take that one, Lisa?
Sure. Workplace verifiers are normally people who are supervisors in a workplace, hence the workplace verifier. But they're not normally assessors. They are, for example, with vocational or the workplace learning, if they are being assessed on the job, they may not necessarily have an assessor at that workplace. So the verifier is, say, their manager or supervisor who observes them doing the work on the job and are able to verify their knowledge and skills. So in your cases, probably the bulk of you'll be the verifier and the assessor. And if you're using some resources that have verifications, we don't recommend, you need to fill in the verification section as well, even if you are the assessor, because the resources that have been that you're using have been pre-moderated and approved by us already, and verification is quite a valuable source of evidence. So I know that some of you have been given advice that you don't need to complete the verification section in some resources, but that's not the case. You do still need to complete that verification section. So hopefully that answers that question. There are other unit standards that you could do, but you don't have to. One of them is 11551, which is moderate assessments. So if you, I know some schools like to go along and do moderation events. So you moderate each other's work and calibration, etc. So Unit Standard 11551 is one that is specifically for moderating assessments. That's a really handy one to have. And again, lots of providers out there that offer this unit standard, and would be another one that would be great for professional development. There's also another one, 11552, which is around designing assessments. So if you are developing your own assessment resources, 11552 is around assessment design and how to interpret a unit standard and convert it into tasks for an assessment.
Fiona has asked, how long does the whole process take to gain CTA? Applying now for CTA by early 2026 is possible. Yeah, I think it's very possible. We try and have a quick turnaround for us. It says officially, I think, 20 working days, but we try to get things a lot earlier than that. So you'll get your letter of support back to you quicker. And what was the NZQA timeline, Lisa, do you remember?
Normally the cutoff is around early October as well. I think we've aligned our cutoff date, the 3rd of October, to be of a similar timeline to NZQA. It might be up to like the 20th of October, I think they take them. Our turnover, though, if you send in an application, we will process it within 20 working days. That's our service level agreement.
Yeah, do you remember what the NZQA one was as well? Was it 40 or?
Oh, they keep changing their timelines.
they do change. You'll definitely have your letter of support from us by then. And as far as we know, that none of the processes are changing at NZQA, as far as we know. So it shouldn't be an issue to have them ready for next year. So you spoke about David's point. Okay, and yeah, just to reiterate, with the 30421 from Saskia's comment, is not a new requirement. So if you've got 4098, it's not a requirement to do 30421 as well. It was brought in as a replacement for 4098, but it turned out to be a lot bigger than was necessarily 4098 was. I would quite like to do it. I haven't managed to get around to doing it yet, but hopefully next year. But if you do get the option, it's great. I've heard great things about it. Any further questions? Or is there anything anybody would like us to go back over? Okay, perfect. In that case, what I might do is I'll close us off with a karakia. Oh yes, 45 working days from NZQA's. So it should be achievable. I'll finish us off with a karakia, and if you've got any comments or any questions later on, then please let us know. I've added our emails in the chat, but I'm sure we can send a follow-up as well with Susie, just with our email addresses if you do have questions. If there's anything that you need to follow up, for instance, that consent to access application, then just let us know, and then we can have a bit of a discussion about what's going on with that too. Okay, so I'll finish us off with a karakia. E kia hora te merino, kia whakapapa ponamu te moana, e huahi mā tātou I te rangi nei, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou I a tātou katoa, hui e, taiki e.
Thank you.
Thank you for all coming.
I don't know if I'm going to be very good, but I'd like to thank you, and obviously I've put it in the chat as well, for all the support Muka Tangata does give our teachers and will for the remainder of the year. And thank you for everything that you do. And we will be sending out information that Muka Tangata does send to us to pass on to you through our mailing. So yeah, thank you again.
No problem, Susie. It's always a pleasure.